All right, today's guest is someone who straddles two worlds the same way I do. On one hand, he's a platinum mixing and mastering engineer trusted by artists all over the world, and on the other, he runs one of the biggest educational channels on YouTube, Mixbus TV. I first met David at a party he threw at 101 Studios before NAMM this year, and what struck me isn't his credits, isn't his YouTube channel, it's the network he's built between engineers, producers, and audio companies. So today we're going to dig into something we both live every day: how to balance between being a YouTuber, a professional engineer, and a voice in the audio community people trust. Welcome to the Loud AF Club, where we cut through the noise and go straight to the source. David Yotzi.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the amazing introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks to everybody that is watching.
Amazing. Well, again, thank you again for being on. The very first thing that gets me super curious is you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos on your YouTube channel. And in the same sentence I say that, we jump on this call before we start filming and you're going, some months we got 4 or 5 songs to mix, and some months we have 4 or 5 albums to mix. And the dichotomy of that is that it's something, even you telling me, I don't see in the public eye. So how do you balance YouTube world and being an authority there versus the professional world where you're kicking ass on mixes?
Well, thank you, first of all. I think the key word is discipline, right? So while you cannot control, or at least you have less control, right, on the mixing side, the clients, the mastering jobs, because yes, some of them are planned in advance, and most of them, they are either last minute or the schedule changed because, like, for example, I'm about to mix Adima's album. We are 2.5 months late because they kept touring. So that schedule changes so much and is very unpredictable, and has been unpredictable for, almost 2 decades at this point. So that's at least constant in being unpredictable. While YouTube, you kind of have a little more, I want to say, headroom to plan ahead and to maybe film content in advance, so that when you are super busy with the mixing and mastering, you kind of have a bank, right, of videos that will, keep the algorithm rolling while you're mixing and mastering, and you cannot film videos. Of course, even the YouTube world is somewhat unpredictable because, especially for me, I work with a lot of companies, and I have like very good collaboration, very good, relationships with them. And so maybe like, hey, we're releasing a new plugin. We want you to do a video, like take a look at this if you like it. And so sometimes that world is also a little unpredictable, but much less. So I think discipline is the key word. Like, when you either know that you're going to have a heavy month in the studio, well, then you have to prepare in advance to keep the channel going, to keep the content going, and film everything in advance. I think that's the most efficient way that I found, running the channel for at least almost 10 years.
Yeah. I'm really curious then, because is it 2 worlds for you or 1 world? There are a lot of young engineers who are starting out and might feel like they must do content or they must be in the studio 24/7. Is your world split into 2, or is it integrated into 1?
I think to answer this question, I gotta go back to how the channel started, because it is they overlap. Let's put it this way. They definitely overlap. They overlap because basically for, let's say, 80% of my videos, I use my mixes. So it's real world things that I mix for clients that are out there. People can listen to the final results. They listen to the finished product. So in that sense, my mixing, my job as a mix and mastering engineer also provides content, because if I get clearance to use a song, I use actual mixes. I almost never do something exclusively for YouTube, like a mix for you. I never done a mix for YouTube for a YouTube video. Of course, when maybe test a plugin or test some gear, yes, you work a little bit on the examples of what fits the best for the given thing that you're featuring, but they definitely overlap. But at the end of the day, the way I started my channel was sort of an accident. And granted, that was 10 years ago. So I feel what you're saying when you're saying the engineers right now, they feel like they have to, be active in on social media, or they have to be like, and that works if you think about it for artists as well, right? Like artists nowadays are somehow forced to be also entertainer in the social media world. They have to be content creator, whether they delegate somebody or they do it themselves. It's kind of like unthinkable for artists or anybody who has, I want to say, any kind of business, kind of like, not to be on social media to some extent. But for me, when I started, it wasn't like that. I was mixing and mastering. That was my job, and I knew nothing about YouTube. And what happened is that I was teaching still already, and but my students, most of them weren't local. So I started screenshotting my Pro Tools page and send them videos as opposed to describe every single thing on a long email. And then this is a funny fact. I still am, but back then I was very close friends with a lot of big fitness influencers. And they were telling me like, dude, you're ripped. You should, open a fitness channel. I'm like, I'm not taking my shirt off and going on camera. That's not going to happen. And that's where it ended. But then I put two and two together. After a few months, I was like, hold on a second. I'm already making videos for my students. I might, just package them a little better and put them out there. Also because for me, starting doing YouTube was out of frustration to some extent, because I was seeing a lot of like, I don't want to sound like a dick, but a lot of misinformation or things that are not properly explained. And me being a Virgo, I was like, no, that's actually not how you do it. And so that's kind of the two things, put together. That's how I started. So for me, when I started, there was no intention of having a YouTube channel or being on social media. Actually, coming from, being a musician, I wanted nothing to do with being in the spotlight. So, yeah.
Okay. That's really interesting because how do I put this? Let me just think about this. You got your YouTube channel. You started out. Now, you were in LA when you started this.
Nope. I was still in
No?
Europe.
Were you? I thought
was
you'd been there.
At the time that I started the channel, I had a pretty big studio. I have a big facility in Italy.
Okay. Wow. All right. That changes things a lot. Here's now something which I wasn't going to ask, but I'm very curious.
Of course.
10 years isn't, it might seem like a lot of time, but it's a very short period of time in the scheme of things. You've built an incredible network over in LA in a short period of time.
Yes.
That surprises me. To think you started 10 years ago, I would have thought you would have started 10 years ago in LA, had the leverage of the community around you, but this was separate to that. Okay, this is undiscovered. This is not planned for this episode. But so at what point, and actually, at what point and why did you choose to move to LA? Was it based on what was happening on the YouTube channel, or was it separate?
No. So I came to LA the first time around probably 2007, 2008, because I was, with my band, and at the time signed with Universal Records, stayed here a little. And I always felt like LA was home. I was, always felt like this was the place to be, especially if you want to do music, at any level. And then moved back to Europe thinking, I'm going to pack my things a couple of years, get my, everything ready, and then move back. And then 7 years passed because I started having so much work over there. Time flies. And what happened is I came to LA visiting for a week for an event for a company that they wanted me here. So they flew me here. And I was on a live stream announcing that I was coming to LA. And I was saying, like, hey, all my friends in LA, you know, I had a few friends here, just come and hang out. And Dave Pensado, with which I was talking online on and off, crashed my live stream. Like, all of a sudden, it was like, hey, are you coming to LA? And it was Dave Pensado. I was like, well, Dave Pensado just crashed the live stream. And I was like, yeah, I'm coming to LA. And he just said, when you're here, call me. This was live on the live stream. And I was like, okay. So I remember like it was yesterday. I landed on a Saturday night. Sunday I woke up, I was like, I'm not going to call him on Sunday. I'm going to stay here a week. So I'm just going to wait on Monday and call him. So I go to the gym and my phone rings and it was Dave and it was like, are you here? And I'm like, yeah, I just didn't want to bother you on Sunday. It was like, no, come here. Come to my studio. I'll buy you lunch. I was like, all right. And so long story short, whether or not he knows that he was so influential, although I think he does, he just sat me down and we had a probably 5 hours conversation about everything. But his point was, what are you doing? Why are you not here? He said, like, you're good. Like you're wasting time not being here. You should be here. And that was kind of a haha moment, right? Because if Dave Pensado takes a day off to sit you down on the couch and tell you this, when he gained nothing from telling me this.
Yeah.
Right. And we were talking, we were friendly, but we were not so close for him to even care about my career. He was so genuine in this. And I was like, he's right. What the hell am I waiting for? I've been delaying this for so long. And I went back. This was September. I went back. And of course, I didn't have any ties, in Europe. Like, I only have my mom, which has her own life. I didn't have like a relationship or not even many friends, because my life was like work and workout. That's it. And I went back and I was like, he's right. And I packed my things. And in October 31st, I moved here. So basically after a month. So he was very instrumental in making the decision when it happened. And to be honest, it was the best decision of my life, because at the end of the day, business has been amazing. The people have been amazing. As you know, I found, my soulmate here, basically a week after I moved back here. So it seemed like the stars aligned at that time. And, I guess I owe Dave the advice that he gave me.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is such a cool story. I would never have put two and two together had I not extrapolated. I just assumed I'm like 10 years makes sense. All right. Cool.
And when
so
I got here,
I
got here, I think I was surprised, because I found, although this is a very competitive, field, and we all know, I think I feel like, although YouTubers many times are looked down to, because I think I built some sort of, reputation, and I felt like a lot of respect and a lot of love from the engineering and music industry community here. And that's how I, built what you saw when you were here. And I was able to, connect a lot of people, a lot of companies, and it was surprising for me as well.
Yeah. How do you balance that dichotomy? Because I think people who are in the world of working as a professional, understanding what companies are doing, understanding the whole landscape of what we go through as professionals behind the scenes, when they see the YouTube channel, they know what's going on. They know the levers that are being pulled. They understand, and they're cool with it. They don't have any sort of qualms about it. They don't hate, they're whatever. However, and I know you would experience this in your comment section, I do as well, a lot of people outside of the world cast really harsh judgment on anybody doing YouTube content in a professional space. how do you balance your image as a professional versus a YouTuber? Like, or mentally, how do you do that gymnastics, so to speak?
It's a very thin balance, right? I think primarily this is my approach. Um, have something to back up what are you doing and what are you teaching. That's the first thing. That's why I always tend to use actual mixes and actual product that can be heard out there, right? So I'm not like, and I'm not looking down on people who do this, but I'm not here producing my own music and then mixing my own songs and then putting my own videos out. All the things that I do is for client that hire me to mix and master. So I think that is a big difference and already put you at a point in which, like, look, this guy's job is mixing and mastering, right? So that immediately, without you having to say anything, puts you
Yeah.
in a different space. At the same time, not everybody looks into what is your career as a mix engineer. They see you on YouTube, they assume you're a YouTuber, that's all you do, right? And so at that point, it's the quality of the content that you put out. And by quality, I don't just mean the teachings or the technical things that you put on your channel, but also the ethics, right? So don't push things if they're not worth pushing. Like, don't feature things just because of the views or just because it's a popular product. Or I try my absolute best to only put things on my channel, whether there's a plugin, whether there's a new product, because I'm known for the hardware, reviews. Um, you know, I think this is what people don't know. They don't know how many things I say no to.
How do you say no? Because and not because you should say yes to everything.
Yeah.
I'm in the
What's the
same boat.
criteria?
Where probably 20% actually gets through to the channel, 80% gets knocked back. And I feel bad because some of these companies, the people there are so passionate about it, they're so driven, and then you look into the product and what you thought might be one thing isn't what it actually is, or doesn't quite align with your what you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as in what drives you. So you go, this doesn't connect with me. I can't have a viewpoint on this that isn't negative, and I don't think that's fair on the company to do that. Because that, like, how do you navigate that relationship without burning the bridge?
Yeah. So so the first thing is, if something is a gimmick and I think it's a gimmick, I'm just gonna politely say no. I don't think I'm the right guy to present your product. Right. That's it. As for what it goes featured on the channel, it's either something that I like and use, and so I genuinely love it, or because of course not everybody has a full-blown studio with 100 channels of analog and giant mains and all the bells and whistle, right? So I need to think, what can be useful or a good product for my audience, for the guy that has a laptop, for the guy that has,
Okay, yeah.
your studio in the bedroom. And sometimes, some of the people that try to catch you, they say like let's say I present a pair, I feature a pair of like 3 inches monitors on my channel, right? And I think these are great. Like, for example, I did some I don't remember the brand. It was a small type of monitor. Someone said like, "Oh, why you don't use them?" What do you mean why I don't use them? I have mains and I have
Yeah.
mid fields and near field. That's not about what I use. That's something that I think it would help as a great price point, as a great, performance for you guys. If I only
Yeah.
feature the things that I use, it's probably going to be out of budget for like most people. That would be stupid,
Yeah.
right? So that's how I
Yeah.
kind of,
Then
decide.
had
And
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. That's a good frame. I don't mean to press on you
of course,
with this, but I'll explain. Rather than assuming you've been in this situation, I'll tell you my situation. This can be Dave Nyotzi, Dr. Phil helpline, all right?
go ahead.
So there's been instances where I've taken on products from a company, or software or NFRs, whatever, because what it says on the packaging looks great. I the people are good because I've had conversations with them. I have a rule that if somebody higher up in the company won't talk to me or give me an open line of communication, I won't touch it, because I like the idea when I'm doing reviews to be able to question and push back. Odyssey were really good at that. I was able to like liaise directly with not David. What's Theo Casimir Drum? I can't remember his surname, but anyway, the owner of the company. I was able to go back and forth with him. So it passes all those vets. I get the product, I start using it, and then I go, I can't back it. I can't back it. How do you politely, how should I politely, and how, if you've been in those situations, politely navigated a respectful no thank you without burning bridges?
Yeah, you say, this is how I do it. I say that this particular product, after trying it, I don't think I am the right person to present it to the people.
Yeah.
It just, for some reason, I don't click with it, and I don't think I would be honest and genuine in, presenting this product. I don't think I would be a good service for this product. And maybe, next one is going to be great and it's going to be a fit. But, this one, it's not so dissimilar to, for example, it has happened very few times to me when you're in a situation that you're mixing and they hire you to mix, but they bend your arms so much that you feel like, all right, this is not going to be my mix anymore. And that, at that point, you need to make a decision. Either I swallow and just put a name on a mix that I'm going to hate for the rest of my life, or I politely say, like, look, we have way too far apart of a vision for this. I don't think I'm your guy. It's not that much different.
Yeah. No, that's
I
fair
feel.
enough. Yeah. You know, it's funny. It's different when you hear somebody saying it
It is.
versus when you're in your own head. Because when I'm in my own head, all you want to do is just help everybody. You want to be kind to everybody. You don't want to hurt people's feelings. And then you say it out loud. It's not actually as harsh as the reality of it.
It's very, very true. Like, if people like us, we generally tend to be very kind. We just, rather take a hit than hit someone else. And, sometimes though, it's kind of like, you do a disservice if you do that in certain situation. And I think, in this case, I always, again, think of my audience, and I always want to try to be as honest and genuine as possible. So, if I don't feel something, I know the video is going to be like, not genuine.
Weird.
And I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's pivot now, because you spoke about like the parallel there with mixing projects, saying no to a mixing project. I'll go on Muse AI, and you've got a bunch of credits. You've got so many credits, and you're working. Like, you're working. Is it a failure on my part to find it, or is it something I can't find because it's just you've got your own circles and who you're working with? But how do you push yourself publicly as a mixing engineer outside of the YouTube channel, or is it mostly word of mouth?
A lot of it is word of mouth, and a lot of it is networking, which is where I feel people nowadays they just don't understand how important is networking. And network can only be done so much online. When I talk when you hear me saying networking, I mean in person. I'll give you a stupid example, because in Bella, we're looking to buy a house, and LA market is crazy. So we thought at some point, like, maybe we could move somewhere else and blah 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 blah. And then every time that I am out somewhere, and I don't go out that much, I'm reminded how important is for me at this point still on my career to be here because of the networking. Stupid example. There was an event last night, very small gathering of people in the industry. As soon as I walk in the door, a common friend of ours, you know him too, I'm not going to name names, he was talking with somebody. I walk in, I go to him to say hi, and he goes like, "Hey, David," and he tells this person, he's a rock mixer. Right there and there, I closed, I had like a bunch of work in front of me for the next 6 weeks or more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's the networking in person is very important, because at the end of the day, yes, your skills are absolutely important, your credits are important, but many times especially if you work directly with the artists as opposed to label work, they need to like you as a person, right?
Yeah.
And
I agree.
that can happen online. And
No,
so
yeah. No, I don't mean to interrupt, but
no,
you're
no, go ahead.
completely right on so many points.
Like
What
the
have,
event you were at.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, that's why I started going LA. I started going in 2020, came back 22, came back 25. I'll be back next year. And it was because my business had expanded globally. And I'm like, okay, every Tom, Dick, and Harry has online mastering. Everybody. How many people go see their customers face to face? And that was like, I need to see and shake everybody's hand. It is the most expensive handshake, but it's the best handshake I'll ever have.
That's how it works. And at that point, so many things come into play, right? Like how you present yourself, what are you wearing, what car you arrive with, like so many things come into play, because this is no different than any other business in the end. And I want to say something because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. First of all, there's not only LA. There's many places where any place where the music industry and the music is healthy, or even just places where there's a healthy live music scene and a lot of musicians, is a viable place to be. LA feel like, because if you live in LA, you know, and you see this happen many, many times. And I don't want people to get this idea. The idea that most people that come here for business have is, as soon as my foot is in LA, everything is gonna click and all the doors are gonna open for me. It's not gonna work like that. The first reason, because it's not gonna work like that, because yes, LA it's great, but also the greatest in the world are here. So that's why you're gonna be your competition, right? So yeah, you're in a great place with a lot of possibilities, but they're literally the best in the world are all here. So that's going to be your competition. And if you were the best on your block, you're nobody here. So I
Yeah.
just, I just don't want people to, and if you look at the acting scene, you see this in LA like so many times, like every almost everybody who wants to be an actor at some point comes to LA, try to make it in LA, and then they last a year and a half and they can afford to be here anymore and they go back home. So that's the reality of LA. It's a great place. There's a lot of opportunities, but it's very far from being easy to make it
It's
here.
it's it's far from the reality most people think it is as well, because people at the top of their game are living, breathing, eating, shitting, everything to do with their passion. Like, not
Yes.
1 second. Like, people will look at your channel and be like, oh, there's hundreds of videos. He has no time for mixing. It's like, no, he made the time to make 100 million videos and 100 million mixes and go to 100 events. And I think people don't understand
That's our
that is
life.
just that's the life. That is the life. I'm seeing some mixing engineers in LA start to come up, and I can recognize the ones that are going to kick ass because maybe we're mutually know them, but they're in studios with different producers and engineers just there to learn. They're not even engineering. They're just sitting there as a fly on the wall every day of the week learning. They're cutting their teeth on anything they can get. They're going to any opportunity to work with a company or learn something new, and every second it's like there's no, oh, I'm going to take up a new hobby. What's a hobby? No, there is no hobby. It's that and everything else. It's that and only that. Which,
There's
yeah, I
many,
think,
many times, even in the past, I got asked, because I'm known for being very technical. Like I know every piece of, there isn't this piece of hardware or that piece of hardware. And like people say like, how does you remember? How do you remember all this? How do you know all this? That's all I've been doing for almost 2 decades. I'm like, that's it. That was my life, my lunch, my dinner, and my breakfast.
Yeah. People do not see the hundreds of hours of going into one specific detail nonstop. And okay, credit to you for this. Listeners will see this and not know this. The Bob Horn faders on Pro Tools. We're in a group chat, and as soon as that flag's in the group chat, within maybe 12 hours, everyone in that group chat are all hustlers and movers in the game. Everybody is jumping on their DAW, running tests, trying to figure it out, getting to the nuance of it before they start talking shit publicly. Like, they're not in a comment section like hating or being dicks or anything. They are learning as a team. And Bob's in that chat as well. And he's in it with it all. And it's like, people just do not see that. They see the soundbite, they see the comment, they see the YouTube title. They do not see that dedication that is like turned on
Instantly.
straight away.
Instantly, because, you know, we are all in that group. We are all so technical and also knowledgeable. I mean, that's why we are there all together. And as soon as there's a question and we have a doubt, everybody's like, all right, let's fucking crack this out. You know, let's get to the bottom of it. And this doesn't happen publicly. Like, people don't know the amount of research and the amount of like how we push each other. Hey, did you do that? Did you pay attention to this when you did this test? Before going public with anything, we talk to each other and we double, triple check so many things when something like that happens.
And that just doesn't happen once as a lunar eclipse event. It happens every day, week, minute, hour. In a session, we move an EQ. Oh, it did that. I'm gonna log that to jump into in a moment after this session. People really have to submit themselves to the process and be ready to get it wrong 100 times.
Oh yeah,
because we know we've got something right and it sounds cool in this session, and then you jump into another session, doesn't work, and you have to be able to let go and relearn it, which is like painful and it hurts your ego.
It is. It definitely is. I always say, like, you're only as good as your last mix or master, right? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you did before. Like, today is a new song, and it at least for me, the half of the stuff that I did yesterday doesn't work. So, especially when you work on different genres, like I think you and me do. Like, I literally can mix reggae today and death metal tomorrow. It literally happened, you know, at some point a few months ago. That I swapped from that genre to the other, and I was like kind of laughing about it because I was like, that is such a completely different, you know, view. But especially when you work on different genres, it's just starting from scratch every time, and you know, kind of questioning yourself every time, and just, am I gonna be, you know, good today?
Yeah, that's because there's always silver bullet solutions, but there's no such silver bullet solution as you just got to eat your pride and learn, and every single day. And that all circles back round to that very top of the funnel where you've come in and said, in LA, everybody's operating at their best. And it's not because they're magically talented or they were born with a special gift or a super ear to understand how an LA2A works. It's because they cut their teeth and they do it every day and they do it every minute, and they're fighting. Like, not in like, they're not fighting each other, they're fighting themselves in that process.
Absolutely. Plus, you know, historically, the bulk of the music industry has been here. So of course, you find people that not only have been doing it for 40 years or 50 years at this point, but then you find the people who in turn for them, they are the next, you know, big thing and the next big engineers, and that has been going on. So there's a history of success in the business. So definitely this is a tough place to succeed.
Yeah, and it's a tough place, but and then you also have to think, Okay, so we're in our DAW. What's the most beautiful thing if you make a mistake in your session?
The
Control
most,
Z.
yeah,
If you make a mistake, undo it. Cool. Engineers cutting their teeth in LA, and this is what I've learned from people who have worked as runners or tracking engineers and whatnot. Labels give out huge advances to artists and teams. They book that studio time. There is no control Z on the value of their time. You
oh no,
waste that time, you are
yeah,
out of the door. And then
yep,
there's 200 people lining up to jump back in. So it's like you're literally playing Russian roulette with every click of your mouse. If you do not get it right, you are out that door. And that's what forces people into that pedigree of craftsmanship is there's no sleeping on it. There's no control Z in that studio.
no, there's not, and you're exactly right. There's a line of people that are ready to take your seat if you slip, and many times, and it happens. It's not that it doesn't happen. How many times you heard the story of someone that is now a big engineer and they got their first big gig because someone didn't show up that day?
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
So many times. Or didn't want to do the jobs.
Or didn't want to do the job.
Yeah, that's not good enough for me. I don't want to do that. And then somebody else does the night shift, 1 a.m, 2 a.m.
Exactly. And then that's it. And all it takes is one. I mean, in this business, you nail a big album, it will build your career. It happened multiple times.
And this parallels with the networking side. You do not know who is going to be your boss the next day. Okay, that person, like which event was it? The one with the really cool couch. I forget the name of the studio. With the Misfits patch and all the really cool patches on it. They had the Safari Pedals party there. Can't remember the name.
Playback? I don't remember.
Big fucking studio. Who works out of there?
East West?
East West. Okay, I'll give you an example at East West. I think they had the runner or one of the assistants at the desk running that event. He's sitting there on his own, people are coming in. Thank the guy for keeping the door. Thank him for like just being there because you have no freaking clue if he's gonna be producing an album in 3 years that's gonna pop off and go multi-platinum.
100%. I personally know if somebody here in LA that started bringing coffee in studios and now is at a very high place in a very big place. I can't name names.
No, that's fine.
Very, very big.
But it happens.
Yeah, and I'm super happy for this person because he busted his butt and grinded, to that. So he deserves it. But you never know. Yeah. You absolutely never know.
And this is when it comes to the networking thing, is you need to treat everybody equally with an incredible amount of respect, not because, number one, that should be a baseline for just good...
Be a baseline being kind.
Baseline for good human nature, simple. But don't place anybody on a pedestal above anyone else because you might get your priorities wrong. There was somebody at NAMM who pulled me aside. I won't say the name of the company because it'll sort of identify them a little bit. They're working as an assistant at this company. They pulled me aside, super excited. Nick, I see your stuff. And I'm like, cool, this is amazing. Great to meet you. Catch him at a few other parties. He moves on from this position at this particular company. And I can't say the name of the studio either, but he's now out on the East Coast managing a massive fucking studio. And he's pretty much given me a line. He goes, great to meet you. Anytime you're out here, you want to film any content, this place is yours.
We go back to also the fact that we said people need to like you as a person because it doesn't matter if you're amazing, you have amazing skills. If you're a dick, nobody wants to be in the studio with you. So 100%. It is, I always say that, like you said, it should be like a basic thing. I always say you can tell a lot by looking at somebody that you don't know, how they treat someone when they can't get anything out of them. Like your waitress, the ballet, right? And you can tell a lot about somebody looking at how they treat people that they wouldn't gain anything from them, right?
Yeah.
And in
Okay.
LA, you gotta watch those things because there's a lot of people that are like, they purposely go after and they try to become friends and try to, befriend people, only people that can push them,
Elevate.
elevate one step ahead or one step up.
Okay.
Um,
I'm going to pry there on the networking side because that's like one little tip you've given there for just observing people's behaviors, how they interact, how they respect people, which I think is really good, not just in the studio and in our work life, but in just general life. When it comes to networking and at events, I've got my own pillars I abide by and my sort of boundaries morally where the way I engage with people and respect people, that's sort of my things I've set up. For yourself, what have you learned in your time engaging with people whereby you've had great networking experiences? I'm not going to say opportunities because I think that's secondary. Let's say good networking experiences versus bad networking experiences, and what have the two looked like?
I think, I think I'll start with the bad networking experiences. I think all the bad networking experiences where they came from me not knowing how to network.
Okay.
One, I am kind of a very reserved person, and because this will sound silly, but because I do look kind of like a villain, I tend to not approach people if they don't approach me first. Because I
Okay.
tend to be
Interesting.
like,
Yeah.
you know, and if you are in a room where people know who I am because of my channel, especially in the industry, which is what happens, often, that's never a problem. But if I'm in a room and people don't know who I am, I can be intimidating looking the way I look. So I'm very careful to just look at, the body language of somebody. Like if you connect eyes and that person seems a little, intimidated or something, um, many times I was shying away from even saying anything and just walked away. Just I didn't want to be, and that I think I learned that instead smile more and be more approachable. It'll take you, and people will see that you're okay. You're not, you look scary, but you're not, when you say
Okay.
hi. So I think that the bad networking experiences they came from because I just was not good at. I was so
Okay.
used to be alone and not being, with people and all the good networking experiences that have been when I kind of was more open and started to open up to people, even if because I'm definitely partially shy. So if you get past that and you just say hi to people, well, how are you doing? Even if you don't know the person, 99% they're gonna say like, yeah, I'm good. Nice to meet you back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and the only few times I gotta be honest, that I've been in bad networking experiences is I don't think I've ever. It's either where there's a lot of big egos in the room. That never turns out good. If there's a lot of people with a lot of big ego in the room, it doesn't turn into networking. It turns into a dick contest. You know,
Yeah. How
uh,
do you remove yourself from that situation? We're
I personally just leave.
okay.
I can't.
Oh
So
fuck.
I unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I probably lost gigs because of this. I am I am bad at faking it. Like
Okay.
if I don't like the situation or I don't like the person, eventually you're gonna tell. I can only make face so much. And so I always say if you don't have anything nice to say, just shut up. And I follow my own advice. So if I don't have anything nice to say or I don't feel the situation or maybe I don't fit in that situation, instead of like forcing it or saying something off, I just take myself out of it.
Okay.
And when to be completely honest, I've seen other people who just make face and smile even if they hate the other person
Yeah.
guts, and they just might get a gig, and it's totally fine. You know, everybody has their own style, and everybody has, like you said, their own boundaries, what they're able and what they're willing to compromise, I want to say, right? And that's totally fine.
Yeah. That's interesting. You know what's very interesting? Your description of your personality type in social situations is very close to my experience with you in your demeanor and the way you speak in interactions when I met you and being around Nam and stuff. It's it's quiet, patient, reserved, listening, and then just in those sort of steps. And we all know the characters that are boisterous and loud and exciting. It's like, no, you're on the
Yeah,
chill side. And it's actually a really accurate self-assessment.
I'm
Um,
glad that it defined that it fits. Yeah,
yeah, no, I do find it, and that's not a criticism. That's just like I like when there's some congruency with what people say and what actually happens, which is important. Like
yeah,
every now
definitely.
and then, we've all been in those situations where people say something, and then you're like, huh, that doesn't seem
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Like, I think you're yeah. Um, no, that's cool. All right. Well, fuck. This is like I always come with a plan to these
Yeah, and then it goes
podcasts,
sideways.
and then it's like
It's
derailed in a
totally
different.
okay.
But like this is all valuable. I think anybody listening right now is should be taking the time to soak up like these very nuanced realities of I like to call it the real industry because there's the real industry outside of the computer, and then there's an
It
industry that
is.
lives inside the computer.
It is because, we can talk about compressors and EQ all day. We always do that. I think, there's plenty of that. And I think this is a side of the business that it's not talked about, even because I don't know what on one hand, I don't think many people want to talk about. And on the other hand, I don't think many people, I mean, at the end of the day, the industry is not that big. I could tell you last night, there was a handful of top engineers in one room, and it wasn't like a 30 people event. So like the industry ain't that big, you
Oh,
know?
no, no, even at larger events, everybody like I can connect your name to about another 20 people I know that have somehow cross interacted with you at some point in different capacities, and the same way that I could pick them out. Like it's just people do not understand how ridiculously, ridiculously small and tight knit the
It's
industry.
crazy.
Like it's silly. It's not bad. It's just silly to think
No,
about. Like it's you.
it is still surprising because if you think how big LA it is and how big the music industry is, at the end of the day, there's a saying here in LA, you're one person away from everybody. Like anybody in the industry, we are one person away. And it's funny because I experienced this more times than I can count here in LA. That you randomly say like, "Oh wait, you were with that guy yesterday? I was with him 2 nights ago." It's crazy. Yeah, it just happened something very similar with Matt Lang, and he was where I was the day before with my friend, and I didn't know they knew each other. And I saw a
Yeah,
story, and I messaged the both of us. We were like, "Dude, what's happening?" Like, what? Again, one person away and few hours away too.
yeah. Then do you think? And I'm going to backtrack to what you said before I brought that up. You don't know why it's not spoken about, why it's not accessible as a conversation. These sort of things in the industry. Do you think because it requires a conscious effort? And this is my sort of thought about it. You get your credit card, you buy a plugin, you read the sales copy, and that payment has exchanged you something instantly with as soon as you download it, access to something with no effort other than swiping your credit card. Whereas the idea of even having to go out to one event or even having to talk to two people, but the idea of having to be in that every single day requires effort, and also the fact that you don't click with everybody. Everybody has different personalities. Some people are going to hate your guts. Some people are going to love you. Do you think there's sort of that where I think there needs to be a little bit more of, especially for engineers who are coming up, finding it hard to take a little bit of ownership and go, wait a second, I'm not going to make my career buying the latest plugin. I'm going to make my career getting out there and in the real world, so to speak.
I think there's several facets of it. Number one, not everybody has the possibility of doing that, right?
Okay, fair
number
enough.
two,
Very fair.
Number two, I think social media completely screwed everybody's idea of how the real industry works.
Yeah.
Because most people think that you sit and if you're good enough, they're going to knock at your door. It does not work like that
Oh, no.
at all.
No.
Or if you get enough views, the big artists are going to call you. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen, ever. So I think social media really screwed up the idea and the perception of how you get clients. How many times you two probably get this question? Like people like, how do I get more clients? You know, because they do this, they go online to put their content out and they're waiting for the clients to call. That's not how it works. You know, yes, of course, some clients come from YouTube or from our content online. What, 15% at most, you know? And
That's a very
after
generous
we
figure.
it's not because they see the content, it's because they see the content. Then they listen to your portfolio and the shit you've done. And if they like it, they say like, you know what, this guy not only seems to know what he's talking about, but he also has records to back it up. I'm going to hire him, right? So I think that's a big part. And then because of social media, I think people started to isolate themselves more and more and more. And there's just a societal change that we had with social media. And I think it's very important to kind of push back a little and just go out and listen music, go out. I always say, like, how do I get more clients? Go where the bands are, go where the artists you want to work with are. Hang out with them, go see them live, go find some unknown band that is playing. Maybe you'll find someone that is, you know, it sounds cool, you want to work with. At the end of the day, the streaming era and how the industry works right now, we are seeing that it's kind of not working and it's going down the hill. So what is probably gonna happen is going back to do real A&R, to do real artist development. It's funny, I had the chance to talk with again, not naming names, a big A&R from a big label, like a massive label. And there was a conversation about AI. And to my surprise, he said the future of music belongs to performers, the people who can go on a stage and fucking sing and play. And that was like, I was not expecting that. But then I thought about what Andrew Shep told me when he was on my channel, and we were talking again about AI. And he said one thing right at the beginning of the conversation. He said, you play music and I listen to music dynamic will never stop. That's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
And if you think
it's
about
a language.
And if you think about how he started probably in the Paleolithic era, beating on tree trunk or something, that's the dynamic of someone playing an instrument or singing or making music and an audience, it never stopped. And if you think about now, what's the most important thing for artists? It's not the streaming, it's selling tickets.
Yep. And it's interesting because there's a bit of a musical practical dichotomy there alongside the commercial side. Thing is, with music, subconsciously innate. We are communicating something. And you know how you say you get a gut feeling about something or whatever it might be? There's context that surrounds every record of music, from The Clash to records that come out today, like where there's context to what's being put in that music that's being shared, whether it's whatever emotion it's trying to share in that song. AI can't take that subtext from the human experience. It can analyze it, it can construct it, it can align it in some way, but there's nothing passing the information to an AI bot of our human experience and how dynamic that is day to day. So that's the musical side. The commercial side, and this is something I had an engineer over at the studio and we were having a coffee yesterday, and he does live sound, like touring live sound and production management. And he's talking, like, we're talking speaker technology and DSP and stuff. And I'm realizing how far advanced the speaker and DSP technology is for live shows, like how wildly out of this world it is. But then I'm going, wait a second. These speaker manufacturers and developers and everything for the technology for live shows, they have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of stadiums around the world that are putting on shows every night, that have ticketed audiences every day. So they've got all the freaking money in the world to develop this technology and put it out. Speaker manufacturers in pro audio, might have a good year if they sell 1,000 units.
Yeah. It's a very it's a much smaller market.
Smaller market. So I mention that because I go, the commercial aspect of Spotify studio recorded versus out in the real world live performances is like chalk and cheese, two different worlds.
Yeah, it's a completely different magnitude. Totally.
Yeah. Different magnitude. And this is where people who are touring and doing it well and doing it smart and putting on a show, I can't say it would be easy to do that. I actually admire any touring artist because that is like, you are turned on 24/7.
I can tell you, yeah, for the tour life wasn't for me for sure. It's hard, it's really hard. But I want to touch on something that you said, comparing like the human art versus AI mimicking that, right? I actually thought about this a lot in the past month because of, AI getting better and better and better, and everybody, wait until AI can do this, wait until AI can do that. And I thought about it, and I realized that it doesn't matter how good AI becomes at mimicking humans. If you think why we pay a ticket to see somebody, or we are just in awe when someone does something special, it's because it's another human being doing it. That's what makes it special, right? If you see someone doing like a triple backflip jump in front of you, you go like, holy shit, that was awesome. It's because it's another human being. It's because we can't do it. And we recognize, this is not a conscious thought. This is just how our brain operates. We immediately, instinctively recognize how hard it is and what feat is to be able to do something like that. Or someone, maybe seeing someone playing guitar, amazing, like, and we go like, fuck, that's amazing. It's because it's another human being that does it. That's what is attractive to us. If it's a machine doing it, who cares?
Yeah.
Like it will never, even if it plays exactly the same thing, it will never be impressive.
Yeah. And also, you know what the other thing is with that? That's one side of it, which I think is spot on. Like, I enjoy pushing myself. I enjoy seeing other people push themselves. It's not just competitiveness. It's part of the human condition and the beauty of experiencing life come through you, so to speak. We're not just drones sitting in a chair passively consuming everything. We're experiencing life and that's something that's beautiful. And with that, with AI, this brought a new thought into my head. When I started mastering, this is 10 years, 11 years ago, opened up my studio, I said to myself, I run my own race. I'm not in competition with anybody else. I do my thing and that's it. Mastering engineer at this studio, mastering engineer at that studio, whatever. That's their thing. So I think a lot of people feel threatened by AI and they're making the mistake. They're making a big mistake to start running that race. If you're comparing your master or your mix or your music to AI, you are running the AI race. You are just trying to improve an algorithm. Whereas if you run your own race, which is separate to the output of an AI and your own creation, nothing else can beat it. It'll be one of one every time.
That is totally right. But and I will add to it that I truly believe that AI has no place in art simply because what art is, and it's just it any form of art, if you think about it, is just human being for the most part. It's human beings wanting to either express themselves or connect to other human beings. When you take the human being out of this picture, the picture is not there anymore at all, because it's the connection part that is important. Yeah. It's not the art itself. It's not the final product. It's the fact that it solicits either a connection with another human being or emotions. Like I said, it is in other, interviews and things. How many times a song reminds you of like a specific summer, or
yeah,
it makes you cry, or it makes you angry, or if you cry, it heals you, or
yeah,
that's the one thing. And the reason is because human being we are all connected, even if many times, especially around this time, doesn't feel like it. But we are all connected, and definitely, art is a way to express and connect to other people, even if you don't speak the same language, because at the end of the day, that's a barrier. And music, just destroys that. I don't need to know what Rammstein lyrics say. I don't know for the most part,
yeah,
but it's my favorite band.
yeah,
That's how crazy it is. And so that's what music does. And so is a painting. I don't have the eye for painting. I don't have that kind of sensitivity in me for that type of art, but painting do the same thing. Books do the same thing,
yeah, yeah. That's interesting. That's really it's 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 a really weird and interesting discussion. On a technical front, have you used any AI technology in like testing or whatnot?
I did test a few things because, and we go back to the channel here, I got so many requests to
Okay.
feature this new AI thing, this new AI whatever, even from the big players. And so I did test them, and my answer was always no.
Okay.
Is it's not at this time. I don't feel like they add anything to it. They sometimes can be a tool that might save you 30 minutes, or they might put a patch. If, like, for example, I need background vocals and I'm running out of time, or this, I can't have the artist doesn't have the budget and I need like a couple of background vocals. Yeah, the AI generators can help in that, but that's about it. I
Yeah.
never found anything that was like, wow, this is amazing or this is great. Now, AI or machine learning used for certain piece of software, like for example, um, Sonible, they are amazing
Okay.
tools, but they don't do the work for. They give you an extra tool. I think Isotope, especially with the latest updates, they do have some type of intelligent processing. It's freaking amazing, but it doesn't do the job for you for sure.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was thinking about this a few days ago. For people that relies because I'm pretty sure there are people out there now that rely on everything that is automatic and everything that is intelligent to try to mix a track, right? How do the different intelligence are gonna cooperate in a mix? Like if you use this
Yeah.
Sonible and this one from Isotope and this one from another company, like how, because they are different ecosystems, so that's probably gonna be a fucking mess if you only rely on the automatic, intelligent AI based thing. So you can't
Yeah.
replace a human being. You
Yeah.
can
And
speed up the process.
but also with that, let's say right now it's pretty accessible and cheap. Absolutely. But what happens when you're trying to get into it? And I've seen it with so many services I use running my business where there's always price creep. Like my subscription fees are through the roof across so many services from cloud storage and all this. What happens when the AI technology, which is available for music production and mixing, has that scope creep? Because as companies grow, as time goes on, they become bloated. Like companies become bloated, so they have to up their monthly subscription or their cost to enter. Those engineers can no longer afford, like I'm being a bit dystopian with this, but like those engineers can no longer afford to use those services. What skills have they developed during that time that they can actually take back to fundamental tools to actually perform their tasks?
None. Zero.
With that, where do people start? I started on a Yamaha 10-track mixer. I paid once for it and it still works. All the EQ, all the gain, everything. I can put something in and I can know how it functions and I can pull a sound from it. You get subscription inactive. You get, like I had to update my OS recently in my computer, you get not compatible.
Yep.
Crash, whatever.
Oh,
You can't do your job.
You touched two subjects that are like my everyday, basically. So I want to say something about you mentioned the subscription, right? I'm not even gonna go there. I'm just gonna mention this because otherwise we open a Pandora box that will never be closed. We've seen this with tech companies create dependency and then use that as a leverage. So people need to pay attention to that. And I'm just gonna not add anything to this. Otherwise, it's gonna be like a never ending. But it's funny because all the people that are somehow critical for what reason I don't understand of all the analog gear that I have. And I promise you for some reason there's some people that is mad about it. It's like, oh, it takes so long to recall it. It takes so long to turn on. First of all, if you're that lazy, if I was an artist, I would never give you my song because you're showing me how lazy you are right there and there. Like, right? So that's the first thing. If you can't even bother recalling a few machines, if that's your idea of too hard work, I wouldn't give you anything. But the second thing is, I know you experienced this. How many times you opened a few years old session and nothing worked? The plugins were not there anymore. The OS wasn't compatible, right?
Yeah.
I can open a mix that I've done 10 years ago and my distressors are still the freaking same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I think
understand.
people don't understand this. Like, oh, it takes so long, but there's a reason because tape is still considered the number one backup format because hard drive fail all the time. The digital fail all the time. We can still open tapes from 80 years ago.
Yeah, you're gonna bake them, but yeah, yeah.
So
You still have access.
that's a crazy part. So yeah, that's kind of funny, and I feel all these comments come from people that don't have experience or they never actually been in an analog studio or work with analog, and they would immediately know like, oh dang, my laptop
But
takes longer to load all my plugins than he takes to recall the machines.
I know, but it's also a viewpoint into the professional life. Example time. Bob Horn, who I do mastering for, every now and then there's a mix that comes through. he puts everything through his DW Fern on his mix bus, and he has an analog chain he recalls. Every now and then there might be something I pick up and I go, oh, like I'm talking 1 in 20, 1 in 30. Like I might
Right.
go, oh, let's look at changing this element. Maybe this will work better for what the artist's after. He will, within like that quick, recall everything. Like obviously on the weekend, different thing or whatever he's got going on, he's not going to, start driving back to the studio or whatever. But very promptly, I will find there'll be another Dropbox link in my inbox where he's recalled the analog chain, reprinted. The artist asked for it after mastering. And the artist wants a vocal change or this, that, the other. He will reprint it. And the reason why isn't because isn't to like Bob is an incredible mixer. It's not to say that he's going above and beyond, but the catalyst to doing that and the catalyst to you having your analog gear and the catalyst to, like we said earlier in the episode, being on that group forum and everybody jumping in, the catalyst to that is that we only want the best for the artist, for the product. Like there's nothing else driving us other than that. Another example is I got really, really upset at some producers, and I won't give too much context because I don't want people to feel singled out here. Got really, really upset at the producers because I needed a particular file they didn't want to produce from the mix. The artist did it on their end and sent it across to me. Is that a big deal? Maybe, maybe not. But in my head, in my eyes, all I'm thinking is this artist has trusted you with your music to carry through a service and they're going to do your job. How fucking dare you? Like, no. That's like a big no-no.
There is very few things that drives me crazy like laziness to any extent.
But it's
And
just,
when I
it's
start
disrespect
smelling-
because sorry, I don't mean to jump
go
in.
ahead.
If people respected the art or the process, they wouldn't complain about the analog gear. They would do it because they love the product, the artist, everything around it. And that's not to say analog's better than digital, this, that, the other. I won't get into that with you. But it's to say that the end product, the artist, is a pedestal above everybody. And if I see you using analog gear, I'm not criticizing you for doing it. I'm criticizing you if you don't serve the artist. That's where I'll get fuming and be like, what the hell are you doing, David?
When I close a project and, the mix is approved, the master's approved, I send it out, and there's the last email where the client tell you thank you so much for blah, 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 whatever. See you next time. My last words to any client is thank you for trusting me with your music. Because that is exactly what they're doing. And I feel the responsibility every single move I do. There's nothing for me that is left to chance or is left to, maybe not. Nobody's going to hear. That's one thing that drives me crazy. When people say nobody's going to hear that. This is not how, you shouldn't be near a mixed. If I hear you sing, nobody's going to hear this. You're not only disrespecting the artist, but you're treating your audience like they're stupid. And that is so beyond disrespectful. Anybody who says that should not be near music making in any capacity. And I'm being dramatic, but sorry, it just drives me crazy.
But it's not being dramatic. It's being very fair, and I think people have to read the situation a lot different. Be empathetic. Put yourself in the artist's shoes. And this is an experience many artists have. And it's not to say this is what all mixing engineers and producers are like or what none of us are like. They have to get, let's say for a song, 2-3 grand. Okay? They learn a bit about the producer, the engineer, the people they want to work with. Their song might exist in a GarageBand file or on a voice note or just something they perform with their friends or whatever it might be, or their co-writers. They have to hand over $3,000 or $2,000 or whatever the amount is. And it is a black box. There is no knowing what comes out. But they can extrapolate previous experiences. And when they extrapolate, typically for artists that are starting out, paying less and on budgets that are a bit tighter, working with hobbyists and whatnot. It's not to critique hobbyists, but there are many people who have had bad experiences. You have to understand, they've had so many bad experiences during building up their career. And then they get to a position where they have to put imagine you just taking out your wallet, $2,000, $3,000 into, let's just, at random, even though you might have researched it, putting it in the stock market and not knowing what's going to come out. You have to understand that anxiety and that stress and that unknowingness that as a professional, you should do everything possible to make sure what comes out of that black box is their dream, like is out of this world.
Yeah, that is always the goal, and you may not or may not succeed, but the point is you should have that mindset, and you should do everything and anything in your that you can to achieve that. Always keeping in mind, on top of it, how blessed and lucky we are to do what we're doing for a living.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I never forget, but I still actively tell myself how lucky I am and how blessed I am to be in the position where I'm at, you know?
How do you explain your job to people outside of the industry?
It's so
To your
hard.
family at home, what do you say?
Some people really don't have any idea that this position even exists. And so when you say like you're mixing record, there's some people like they ask if you're a DJ, and you go like, no, not in that way. But yeah, it's I always say to the people that have no idea what we're doing, especially as a mixing engineer, I always say, like, think about, I'm a chef. The artist brings me the ingredients and I make a dish with those ingredients. That's what we do. We're gonna bring, they're gonna bring the raw instruments and then we turn it into what you listen as a record. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And I
And it is a
noticed that the food chef parallel works very well. People understand that.
oh, that's good. I just struggle. I just tell people I listen to music all day. It's like I have 3 kids. One's in school, and a lot of the parents have, some people are tradespeople, some people wear their uniform or their suit and whatever. And I rock up in tracksuits, and whoever's asked me is like, "What do you do?" "Oh, I listen to music all day."
Yeah, that's
What am I
good if
meant
you
to?
don't want to go in detail. If
I
you want to use
can't.
the same, if you want to use the same, the difference between mixing and mastering is like the mixing is the chef making the dish, and then there's the guy that prepares how it looks to bring it to the
Plating.
table. That
Yeah, yeah,
does the aesthetic. That's what it is. But
possibly.
it's you know,
It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
or
I
it's
know
the
when.
paint on the car. That's another thing that I always compare and master to. You can have, like, imagine you have the best car in the world, right?
Yeah,
Freaking a marvel of technology with everything, but the paint is all like fucked up. Who's gonna buy it?
yeah,
Nobody's gonna buy it, right?
yeah. No, I get it. It's a real tricky one. As like when I started out, all my nonny's friends would ask, "What's Nicholas doing?" And he'd go, "Oh, he's working in music with technology." And everybody from the Pensionati Club would come, and they'd be like, "Can you put my tape on CD?" Like that was their blanket thing. I'm like, no, that's not my job. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, no, we are blessed. I just think it was interesting. I always like asking people how they describe their job because I'm just, it's a really weird one, and it's really good to be appreciative of the role we have,
Oh yeah.
um, because it's huge. And I think it backtracks to what we said before, how there's so many people waiting in line to get into doing what we're doing that,
100% is a very extremely competitive field, especially here. But I also think about something else because I know some people personally like that. People have millions of dollars and they absolutely hate their life because they hate their job. What's the
yep.
point? What's the point?
What do you wake up for? What do you wake like? You want to feel at every junk. Like I think we owe it. People with good self-esteem owe it to themselves to serve themselves and those around them. And everybody has a different skill set to do that. and there's no judging on what skill set is better than another. We're an electrician,
Absolutely not.
a plumber, a teacher at a school, a nurse, who I really respect nurses because I've had 3 kids at hospitals. They work insane. And you owe it to yourself to be in service to others as well as through that to yourself. And there's something healing about working on music every day, which is symbiotic of that relationship of we can provide something for others, but in the same respect, we are doing it through ourselves as a passion. So it
Yeah,
works in
absolutely.
harmony.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
And again, not into go into dark things, but we are also blessed to live in countries where we have freedom and we have things. So obviously, not everybody even have the chance to think about, you know what, I'm gonna
oh
try to
yeah,
do the job that I love. So
yeah,
I think it's so important to remind ourselves how really blessed we are. You know.
yeah. And there's nothing wrong with. I think it's easy to get excited about everything technology and audio and our process and whatnot, but there's nothing wrong with just taking the time to honestly think about darker things happening in the world, not for the sake of anything other than the fact of humbling ourselves that we have the luxury afforded to do this, and that it is not a like nobody owes it to us. This is something which I think comes back to what you said, where you go, oh, you set up a YouTube channel, set up a studio, and people are just going to come. They owe it to you because you spent the money or you spent the time. Nobody owes you shit.
No.
So take the time, humble yourself. You have the choice to be doing this. And if you're passionate about it, you have the choice to drive that passion and develop in it. That is a huge luxury where people who might not even know where their next meal is coming from, that is so low on the totem pole of even a reality, that this is an insane thing. And then you take that with and I think this comes full circle to networking, respecting others, but also what we not should. I think that's a bit like commandeering to tell people what they should and shouldn't do, but at least in our thoughts and our actions, be leading by example to set up an industry that can enable the next generation to come through in a positive way, like the T-boy, like the runner at a studio that comes through under an
100%.
engineer.
100%. And, when I started the channel, I could have never imagined that, I was about to influence positively many people. And obviously, I'm not telling this myself, but I just go with the feedback that many people told me, like, I have a job at Sony now because of you. I started watching your videos, or I finished my album because of you, or I have a job in the studio like a NAM. It happens every other quarter. But realizing at some point that, in a way, passing the torch or leaving behind teachings and things that will help people is your legacy, and it will outlive you. It's a good feeling. It is a good feeling. Hell, I will never forget the first time, and it happened way too late in my life, when I really felt how good it feels to help someone without, expecting anything in return. It just happens, and the person goes like, "Oh my God, that helped me so much." That feeling, it's nothing compares to that. Or at least
Yeah,
if you're a good person, I want to say this, because it's really like one of the most fulfilling things you can possibly do is like to make someone else happy, to help someone else, and to see
yeah,
that you are, something more than just on this planet for yourself, and, just fulfill your needs and your, you know, yeah.
yep.
It's a little,
It's a bit. You go.
no, go ahead.
No, no, no.
I'm going into metaphysical a little bit right now, but it's like, especially what happening with my, fiance, is just there are some things that give you a completely different perspective on what's important and what's not, right? So,
Yeah, yeah. No, I completely understand. I think that's like a really healthy spot for people to come full circle on this podcast episode with, because um we started very high level on like a very broad umbrella of, YouTube engineering. It funnels into networking. It funnels into like so many aspects of, I think, where the intersection of the human condition and engineering actually lie as a career. Which, man, this is probably a conversation I think anybody who listens through start to end, you should go back
Yeah,
again, re-listen to it, really dig in, because it might not be the most sexiest YouTube titled
for
video in
sure.
the world, but it's like something that is very value rich, and if people can take guided lesson or interpretation from it, they'll you will get a lot from re-listening to this. Not because I'm trying to drive up views, but just because
No, I
genuinely,
agree with you, and I do believe it. Yes, definitely. I believe there's many concept that they might pass by while you're watching the video the first time, but if you're going back to, it's probably something that I would watch myself again. I will probably will, because yeah, I mean, there's a lot that I think there was a lot, especially on my part, of self analysis here in this video, because some of your question made me think of things that are somehow second nature, but then when someone asks you about it, forces you to think like, hold on, what happens in that situation, right? So it's kind of therapeutical at some level.
yeah, no, and it's really like, these are my lessons that I get off, as in off, not on YouTube, but like outside of my studio interactions and sessions. They're like everything when a guest comes on that I wish I could ask, or I've been curious or wanted to, like, that's what this sort of amalgamates to. Because and in the process of learning, I can share it with others, and if they have the same sort of learning, that's great. But thank you, David, for joining me.
Thank you
Everybody's
for
going to
having
go.
me.
No, it's been a pleasure. Everybody's going to go check out Mixbus TV, of course. And yeah, I really appreciate your time here. And thank you for your hospitality again. I thanked you on when I was there in January, but it was really kind. Like having the studio open, and I know Bob invited me along, so it was like a sort of closed loop event, but I was there and I was really grateful for being there. So thank you.
Absolutely. I was super happy, to meet you there. And I hope, you're going to be back in January. There's going to be more of that. And we will definitely see each other in person again.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, mate.
Thank you so much.